We're mostly here. She's not, okay, good to know. Thank you, Commissioner Hess. All right, well, here we are. Nice to see everybody here in the chambers, and it's always nice to see my colleagues up here in the dais. I'm going to officially call to order the Kalamazoo City Committee of the Whole meeting, City Commission Committee of the Whole meeting from Monday, October 2nd, 2023. And our first order of business is to call the roll. Clerk Borling.
Commissioner Decker. Commissioner Hess.
Here.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Juarez.
Here.
Commissioner Pradle.
Present.
Vice Mayor Cooney. Present. Mayor Anderson.
Here. Colleagues, may I please have a motion to excuse Commissioner Decker from this meeting?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Hess, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right, thank you so much. Now, communications, COO Lamb.
I'll save communications for the 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, sounds great. Now is the opportunity for public comments. Public comments at the Committee of the Whole meeting are limited to 2 minutes. And just a reminder, there is a public comment period at our regular business meeting that starts at 7. But this can be public comments on any item. And please come forward. If you're here in the chambers, you want to make a public comment, state your name and whether you live in the city. And like I said, we'll have 2 minutes. And after that, there's an opportunity to call in with a public comment, also limited to 2 minutes. And that number is 888-382-9556. Yes.
Good evening, I'm Toby Hannah Davies, and I do live in the city, and I'm from Isaac. I want to thank the city staff for, first of all, bringing forth the emergency housing ordinance in plenty of time for it to be reviewed before it was sunsetted. And second of all, for adding that 5 years plus a winter to the timeline for the proposed changes to the ordinance. But I'm distressed about an artificial phasing of 20 pods at a time, 20 for the whole first year before the next 20. I want to be sure you know that there are pods in Reno, Nevada. Washoe County created a safe camp in February of 2022 with 45 pods, and they have been going ever since then. So there's a very good example of a big community of 45 of the very same pods that HRI purchased. And as you know, HRI has tried to have 2 different sites that the city owned that fell through. It's not that HRI hasn't been working really hard with the city. Now they finally apparently have another site, and I don't know how soon they can announce it, but I feel like the rules should not change at this last minute. And if you do change the rules for any future agencies that want to do emergency housing, I hope you grandparent in HRI into the rules that you've given them for these 2 years that they've worked so hard. It's.
Thank you. It is. Thank you. Director Davis.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michelle Davis. I'm the Executive Director at Housing Resources, which is located in the city of Kalamazoo. I've just come forward today to thank you very much and extend great appreciation to your city staff for working with us since the last Committee of the Whole meeting on the revisions that you're going to see or you have seen today and that have been published. We appreciate very much the dialogue from the last meeting and the changes that are coming forth today that make this possible. We hope very much that you are all in agreement and put this forth to the business meeting for its first reading so it's not delayed and this extension can take place. if there's any minor consideration for discussion that would not delay it at all, it would be that the provision that's mentioned for the MOU to be brought forth to commission for 20 units and more, just be considered that that's for all projects, not just 20 units. I think the stated purpose was for transparency for our community, and I think there should be transparency for all projects, not just 20 and more. So we're very grateful, and the city staff have worked with us since we talked about purchasing the pods way back, and we know this is about the ordinance, not the pods, but we're very grateful, so thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jane Ghosh, President and CEO at Discover Kalamazoo, the Convention and Visitors Bureau for Kalamazoo County, located here in the city of Kalamazoo. And I'm not available to come to the business meeting later, so I'm calling to speak in support of item number 5 on the regular agenda at this evening's meeting, the marketing contract for marketing communications regarding the streets. So I am strongly in favor of the streets projects that are in place. I wrote several letters of support to help support the grants that were given. I truly believe that the traffic calming and the two-way streets will have enormous benefits for our downtown, for our retailers, for our citizens, both in the downtown neighborhood as well as on the north side neighborhood. I think it'll slow down, reduce accidents, and improve connectivity and therefore economic impact. I actually had a staff member who was hit by a car, within the last year, because again, cars go very, very fast. But that project will only, so I firmly believe that's a great project to do. It'll only be successful if we communicate it with excellence. And I think that this contract will help us communicate the reason for it, the benefits of it, as well as in real time while changes are happening to make sure that we minimize the impact on our residents. So I'm strongly in support of this initiative, and I just wanted to communicate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the chambers who would like to take advantage of this public comment period? Seeing no one, we have a new member of the city manager office, Mike Smith, who has stepped up to handle the phone-in calls. Mr. Smith.
And you're with the Kalamazoo City Commission. Go ahead. And you're with the Kalamazoo City Commission. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Michael Baer. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Good. I'm calling as a concerned homeowner, taxpayer, father, and husband to express my growing concern about the issue of homelessness in our city. It is clear that this problem is affecting not only the homeless individuals themselves, but also the safety and well-being of our entire community. This weekend at a stoplight in Kalamazoo, our family was exposed to the genitals of a homeless person in broad daylight as he asked us for funds at the corner. It was a disturbing event for our family, especially for our 2 young children. This same area is often home to open-air drug use. Our children attend school only a few hundred feet from the spot. Our community has endured this stress for long, and often significant city resources have been diverted from tax-paying citizens for too long. I think it's time for the city to consider a course correction. Instead of continuing expanding or extending this emergency housing agenda, please let it end. The extension of the violation of its initial intent, which was to only provide temporary emergency shelter for those in need. It appears that the continuation request includes a change to the timing and intent of the ordinance to include larger and more permanent structures. This is not the desire of the city's residents. Extending the ordinance is not in the best interest of all the citizens of the city of Kalamazoo. We ask the city to consider instead revisiting the enforcement of basic rules governing our society, including but not limited to indecent exposure, public urination and defecation, and the open use of alcohol and drugs in our public streets. Thank you.
I don't think we have anything else.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate that. And thank you, Andy, for providing support. Now we are at the work portion of our committee of the whole meeting. COO Lamb.
Yes, back by popular demand, we have Sherilyn Parsons, our Housing Development Supervisor. She's going to come I know someday there's going to be walk-up music, but for now, we'll just greet her warmly. She is going to walk through some of the changes that were spurred by the great conversation we had at the last COW, some great conversation with community partners, and where we stand today with the revised draft. Thank you, Sherilyn.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. So I am bringing forth to you just the changes that have happened since the last meeting. But just as a reminder, this emergency temporary housing order was set to sunset December 1st, 2023. So that's why it was presented to be brought to you and be brought back for approval. So the first considerations that the staff considered when drafting the new ordinance we discussed at the last COW. So I just put them up here as a reminder. I'm not going to go through them. As comments came forth at the last commission of the whole meeting, the concerns that staff heard were with the cost and cohesion of project installation. The phasing needed to be shorter for long-term project success. There was some concerns brought forward regarding the MOU language and that it should be spelled out in greater depth. We also heard that provider experience should be taken into consideration with larger projects. And then there was a question about city liability, which got our legal team involved. So I will just briefly highlight all of those changes that were added to the ordinance. And then in talking with our main housing provider, which is no secret, is HRI, we discussed their development project and concept a couple weeks ago. And in speaking with them, one of the concerns that they had was our previous ordinance had a 24-hour inspection notice, and they thought that that was going to be a challenge to meet that quick turnaround. So we did just take that out, and all inspections will be based on calendar coordination. And then we did have some policy information that we wanted the MOU to contain, and it was suggested to us that we should take out policy information and rather be more concerned about code of conduct and community agreements. And so we agreed to that, and you will see those changes in the new proposed ordinance. So I'm going to take some time to talk about the phasing, because that's where we talked a lot a couple of weeks ago. So this shows the new sort of map and graphic of the new phasing. So as the proposed ordinance stands, at initial phase, when you come in and you have an idea or a concept, at initial phase you will be granted up to 20 shelters, and that could be for installation and or occupancy. It's really up to the housing provider as far as how they want to onboard those shelters. They may desire to install all of the shelters, or they may desire to phase the installation. So we propose that it could be either installation or occupancy. So at initial phase, there's an entitlement of 20 shelters. Then you'll notice there's a 6-month inspection. We did not want to do away with with all of the inspections. So there is a 6-month inspection. At the passing of that first inspection, it opens up for 20 additional shelter units, once again for installation and or occupancy. After 6 months, the cycle revolves. You pass those inspections, the cycle continues, and in our case, this would be a phase 3 installation and or occupancy. So at the end of 12 months, you could have either installed and or occupied up to 60 units. And then that cycle can continue for as long as or as deep as the project is. So that was the largest change, is that allows for up to 60 shelters to either be installed and or occupied within a 12-month period. So the changing of this phasing, once again, will allow for installation and or occupancy. So that is in the ordinance. The phased approach, as I just mentioned, occupancy or development. And then it was noted that it's important to know that during the phase-up time, We do understand that if someone were to choose to install all of their units, but only only use the phasing for occupancy, that there will be vacant units, and that could get sort of touchy if an emergency arises and there are vacant units. But staff did want to bring it forward that due diligence and inspection should not be eliminated on untested sites, even if that does happen. So we wanted to put that out there. In the final revision, the Memorandum of Understanding continues to require signature. That was in the original. Signature by an authorized representative of the service provider and the property owner and the city. And then what was added is for all facilities that have more than 20 shelters or will have some sort of phasing approach to them, that the MOU will be presented to City Commission for informational purposes. Then the city liability that was addressed to be added, this is a quick bullet paraphrase. There's acknowledgement that must be included in the MOU regarding the termination date and the plan of removal. There's an acknowledgement of the inspections that must take place, that the service provider is solely responsible for the development, and that the property owner indemnifies and will hold the city of Kalamazoo harmless, and service provider will own and control the development. It is not a city's development. It will be the service provider's responsibility, and that the Kalamazoo City Code will still be adhered to as it pertains to construction, development, fire code, removal, and termination of all services. Short and sweet. Any questions?
Questions, commissioners? Commissioner Pradel?
Thanks, Cheryl. Appreciate your presentation. You mentioned on there, and we saw in the packet information as well about the addition of the property owner and the service provider indemnifying the city, but conceivably that could be one and the same, correct? So you could have a situation where the service provider is also the property owner?
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Great. And then I just wanted to make sure to make a note, it's not a huge thing, but the terminology a bit tonight we used was like installation and occupancy, but the way it's described in the document is development and occupancy. So I just wanted to make sure to note that I think those terms are interchangeable, installation and development.
Yes, so thank you for that. Yeah, when I'm separating in my mind, I'm thinking installing. So development and installation is one and the same.
Great. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate
Yes.
it.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Commissioner Hess?
Yeah, thank you, Sherilyn, for that. I appreciate you and your team working feverishly for these 2 weeks, and also obviously with HRI to come to this. And I'm going to assume that we've reached consensus, or that HRI is able and willing to work with this kind of document. And
I believe so. I did hear Director Davis mention that she was in support of it on her comments, and I did have conversations with them when we reached our final revision. I did send that out to them, admittedly. I believe it might have been Friday, but it was sent to them and discussed, yeah.
so I know you've worked very diligently on that. And so one commenter tonight did say that there's a site. Can that be disclosed at this point, or no?
Not by me. So nothing's been presented to the city as far as specifics on the project, other than that they do hold the 50 pods that we are aware they hold. So I think they're still working through their due diligence on the site that they have identified. But if someone from HRI would like to comment, I would welcome that.
Any other questions, commissioners?
Would someone from HR like to comment?
No.
Thank you so much.
So they are not ready to announce their plan yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to just give a ton of thanks to you and the staff and Christina, making sure, you know, she was calling us just to like get through this, right? So for me, I think the community needs to understand is that the city was not against this. It was more like, how do we figure this out? And how do we do it in a way that serves the community the best, right? And so I'm so happy that you guys were able to make the adjustments that HRI need, and I'd be remiss if to not say that we need more organizations to get on top of this. We need more organizations to come together to figure this stuff out. The city can only play a certain part in helping this issue with homelessness, right? We can only do so much, right? And so I think it'd be good for us to make sure that other organizations that work with homelessness and work with housing understand that this has to be a collective response. You hear Don Cooney say that all the time. Collective response, right? And so thank you guys for working on figuring this out and getting it to where it needed to be so it could serve, you know, HRI. And I appreciate HRI's comments, right? In thanking the city and the staff for meeting them at that point, right? And so that's super important for the community to see, and it's super important for us to continue to encourage others to get involved. The more people are involved, the bigger the impact. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Juarez. Any other comments or questions, commissioners? Commissioner Pradle?
I'll just echo the sentiments as well. I love to see these opportunities where we can iron through things and come to a strong resolution, and I think that definitely has happened here tonight. Toby Hannah Davies, who came up here before, I think made a really good point that I had not heard before, but I think it's great to see that the city and HRI in particular are working on this before it's sunset, right? I think that it's showing that there's a proactive approach to it, to not just wait till the clock runs out and then scramble to figure out a solution. It's proactively reviewing before that sunset date, which was set for December 31st of this year. And then, you know, again, recognizing that it is extending the time, like based on the feedback from HRI saying like 2 years might not be enough, 5 years plus a winter is more reasonable. You know, it will potentially have to come with a little bit more attention because of the longer time period. So anyway, just want to congratulate you and Christina and the team for your work on this, and thank you for working through it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradle. Yeah, so just as far as that goes, I concur with the positive statements that have been made. But I also want to remind all of us that this is not, as you referenced, this is not specifically an ordinance that was written for one entity. So that was an important piece of all this, is recognizing that this is something that's in place for any potential entity that wants to take advantage of this. And so there has to be a broader recognition of that and, you know, what any particular project could look like. And I think keeping that in mind, you know, was also very helpful. So I appreciate that also. Thank you so much.
That is a very good point on that, which is one of the reasons why when community feedback did say extend the 5 years, that we did think about that as far as we would welcome some new concept and project ideas to come forth in this new 5-year extended plus a winter emergency housing ordinance. So thank you for that point.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Parsons. All right. Thank you so much. I don't think there's any more questions. COO Lamb.
That concludes our portion for the evening.
All right. Yes. So I think this is the, thanks again. Thanks for everyone who came. This is the shortest committee of the whole meeting I think we've had in a couple of years. Yes. Thank you one and all. Just as a reminder, our business meeting starts in an hour and a half right here in this room. There's an opportunity for public comments, general, and also on particular items under the regular agenda at that time. We're adjourned.